Well, good evening, peculiars. One of the lovely things about not having hair is that you get to have different hair all the time. So I'm blonde this evening, and I'm trying to find out if I have more fun. So it's very exciting to be here tonight. I have to say, a whole lot of really interesting stuff is already happening in the chat, where Leanne reminds you, if you want to stay current, you want to be on the live chat, not top chat. But there's been discussion already over there about the lives of naked mole rats, sex lives of naked mole rats, and some questions about I mean, it's kind of amazing. So anyway, Davey, are you excited? I'm excited.
I'm not a blonde, but Anthro Girl is with you. Anthro Girl.
Blonde, we have more fun.
No comment, unfortunately.
This is great.
Yes, I am excited. I don't know what I want to talk to Jamie more about. The search for alien life, or just her general knowledge of sci-fi pop culture.
It is kind of amazing. Like, she rivals you, my friend.
I know.
Lorelei says, impossible for you to have more fun, Brandy. This is probably true. Anther Girl says, I look good as a blonde. Surprisingly, I think I do look. I actually had red hair for a time. Did not look great as a redhead. I think the olive tone in my skin, there was kind of like a red-green thing happening. It was not great. But Leanne actually said that she sat at the table where the Drake equation for possibility of life was explained in West Virginia. So kind of interesting. And tonight we are here with Jaime Green for The Possibility of Life. Let us welcome our author. Hello. You got an ink explosion. We try to do that for each of you. It's all good.
Love
it's all good. There's already questions sort of coming in here, in addition to the naked mole rat thing, which we'll get back around to. But I know a little bit about naked mole rats, weirdly, because of cancer research. So we can talk about that. About that.
We've already warned Jamie that any small detail from her book could be a topic of conversation.
Like, everything I know about naked mole rats is on the page. I got nothing else.
I think they're fascinating creatures because they live in a hive mind kind of thing.
Right, which is like how they ended up in my book, but that's like all I know about them. Sorry.
Well, what really I'm going to say this right now. I said I was going to talk about I had nightmares after reading your book because of the sentient plants. The whole rainbow bamboo that got into my dreams in ways that was very disturbing.
I already told it. Yeah, if I had time for a sketch, I apologize, peculiars. There's no silly sketch tonight, but my idea was going to be plant deathmatch. That was that. If I had time this week,
in the book. Yeah.
Plant. And then there's fungi, which are like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Actually colonizing our bodies. I mean, I'm not surprised in some ways, but it's sort of disturbing. So
yeah.
Oh, Susan's like, what? No sketch? I'm out.
All right. Bye, Susan. Thank you for joining us.
We've got a lot of people here. Kristen, we've got Susie Q, we've got Leanne, we have Lorelei, lots of people here tonight. Anthro Girl. So I'm very excited to see everybody. Oh, slime molds. Yes, slime molds are kind of crazy. Well. Speaking of, plants are pretty damn alien, actually. As it is. But yeah, there's fascinating questions to be asked here. So, but we'll start off with a softball one. I am, by the way, putting all the questions. I star the questions so we can get back to them. So go ahead and type your questions in. It's really helpful if you stick a Q in front of it, because then it's easier for me to find. But I always start off with a bit of a softball question, which is, you're welcome. How did you decide to write this particular book?
It was a very sort of a long process, but also it was sort of always the book I wanted to write. Okay. I got the idea to write about it when I was in grad school in 2011, 2012. So about more than 10 years before the book came out. Okay. I got my MFA in creative nonfiction, and one of the classes that we all had to take was a research seminar to learn research skills, so that everyone's not writing memoirs all the time. I was not writing memoir at all. I was writing essays and things, and had already realized that I wanted to do science writing. It felt very silly that I didn't realize that until I was in grad school. But my first semester of grad school, one of my professors mentioned that there was a group on campus that did, there was a writing group for scientists and science writers. And I was like, why have I not been writing about science? I've loved this my whole life. Oh my.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm also distracted because my kid just got home from basketball and I
sorry.
hear things happening and I'm like, he has another parent. I'm fine. But so, yeah, I had already realized that I wanted to write about science. And then the next semester I was taking this research seminar and decided that I wanted to write about the golden record. Just we had to pick a topic to research and write about for the semester. And my professor said, that's too small, go bigger, write about aliens. And I was like, well, that is very big, but okay. And I loved it. And I decided I wanted to write a book about it. And then I did the thing that a lot of, you know, aspiring authors do, where you go to the bookstore and you visit the shelf where your future book is going to live.
Yeah.
And then there were already books about this on the shelf, and they were all written by astronomers. And I'm not, you know, I'm a writer. I'm a writer who's always loved science, but I have taken like 2 or 3 science college level science classes my entire life. And so I sort of filed it away because at that point I was like, there isn't, you know, why would someone want a book about this science from me when they already have it from people with PhDs? But I sort of held on to it. And then a few years later, a friend who was an editor was working. She asked if I had an idea for an essay series about culture. And I was like, well, what about aliens from a cultural perspective? You know? And she said yes. And then the second or third essay in that series was about sci-fi aliens and what scientists think about sci-fi aliens. And I just found that that eventually turned into chapter 3 of the book, the animals chapter. So that had the stuff about Avatar, and I think also the xenomorph from Alien was in there. But as I was writing that chapter, it was supposed to be maybe like 2,000 words, and I just wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Such a wonderful feeling.
This is it. And then a month or 2 later, I was at a meeting of my science writing group, and science journalist Carl Zimmer came to visit and was talking about how he had figured out the structure for his book. And something just clicked, and I had to run out into the hallway and get my notebook out of my backpack.
I love it.
I wrote down the structure for the book.
That's
and
amazing.
For me, like, knowing the structure is a very early part of knowing that it's going to work. The structure did not change. I think maybe at some points there was an idea for a whole chapter about language and communication, and that got sort of absorbed into another chapter. But it was just sort of the pieces fell into place. I know that's a really long answer, but it was a very gradual
You
process.
have spurred many questions. So I just want to a couple things here. One, Sareka, who is she's one of our peculiars. She got up in the middle of the night to be here because she's in somewhere far away. I always want to say Paris, and that's never it. And Sareka, I'm so sorry. I know you've told me like a million times where you are. But she's also going to be one of our authors this year.
Oh, cool.
She wrote Humans, A Monstrous History, which is coming out. But she says, visiting the shelf where the book you haven't yet written will go is such a cool and formative experience, which is, I think, really true. And Susan Cotter said, which is what I was thinking, Susan, you're a better writer and communicator than those sciencey guys.
Well, it is weird in astronomy that, like, in other fields, there's a mix, you know, the most prominent authors in other disciplines are often journalists. You know, there's Carl Zimmer and Ed Yong in biology. You know, I read a great book about geology that was written by a journalist, things like that. But then when you go to the astronomy shelf, the prominent authors, it's Brian Greene, Neil deGrasse Tyson, my astronomy professor from Columbia, Caleb Scharf, is a great author and has many
Katie
books.
Mack,
like
Katie Mack too,
right? You know, and when I wrote
Prescott.
the book proposal, it was also all dudes. That was it. But so for physics and astronomy, it's really dramatically. And some of them are great writers. Like, I think Brian Greene is amazing. I couldn't do what he does, but it took some thinking to figure out what I had to add to the conversation.
that's such a we talk a lot about writing. We have a lot of writers who are members. We have readers and we have writers too, and the two overlap a lot. And we talk about that a lot. That it's like figuring out what your personal take on something is so important. And Leanne mentions this, and it is true. Carl Zimmer has been on our show before, and this year is not on the video show. But if you guys listen to the podcast, and you should. He's coming up on the podcast with us this year in a month. I think Davey probably has the exact date. Just a quick aside though, Susan wants to know what you're drinking, Sureka. Is it coffee or sleepy time tea? Oh, she's in Paris time. That's why I got that.
Close
that
enough.
Makes sense. Yes. Let's see, what else have I missed here? Oh, and Anthogro points out, you're right. And those are the subjects that need those subjects, the ones that don't tend to have the journalists talking about them. They need better conversational writing styles because they are really hard to grasp. I happen to be a big fan of quantum mechanics, and there's not a lot of people who write about quantum mechanics in a way you can actually grasp.
Natalie Wolchover, who's a journalist at Quanta, has a book coming out, and I am so about like modern physics, and I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. Sureka says water.
Okay. Good.
Not the cocktail or the mocktail. Right. Okay. So I've queued up some questions. Keep writing your questions. I'm trying to collect them, guys. But before we get too far, because I always forget to do this, it's time to do announcements with Davey. So yes, announcements. Hi, Davey.
Hi, everyone. Carl Zimmer is officially scheduled for February 20th. So it'll hit your podcast feeds. You wake up in the morning, February 20th, it'll be there.
So you guys make sure you're subscribed and that you're liking and saying how lovely we are, because we're doing a lot more podcasts this year. We've got a ton of them lined up, actually, that are not going to be video shows, including our Peculiar and Mystery podcasts, which are coming up. So announcements. First of all, please do find us on social. We are kind of everywhere. Now, I will say that Twitter has gone a bit fallow because but we're everywhere else, and you can find us. If you are not a member of our Facebook group, we have a Facebook page, and that's open to everyone. Facebook group is the nice, safe place, which is lovely, and that we curate everything, and Leanne and I both take turns making sure that nothing bad happens up there. So it's a lovely place to be, and you do have to apply to be in, but please do.
I will say that Davey is now on Blue Sky.
I
jumped over. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's fabulous.
I just followed Jamie over there. So
okay. Well, follow me.
Come on over, everybody.
Please do. I have like 26,000 followers somehow. I'm not quite sure how that happened.
The starter packs. So those starter packs are really clutch. Like you put one together, Brandy. So I
did. I can put you on it.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, okay, great. So, find us there. Next up.
Oh yeah, I gotta keep clicking forward, don't I?
Yes. This is our little our call to action page. So you can read if you love to keep up with our books, that's fantastic. You can go to Goodreads. We have a group there. We've got the bookclub.org. I think that is what that one is. And those are run by mavens of ours. Jennifer Pierce, who I see just turned up in the feed there. And we are exploring some other avenues as well for Goodreads alt kind of things to do. We do love our readers. You do not actually have to have read all the books to get on the show. One of the things we try to avoid spoilers. So think about it. This is your preview, and this will tell you want to go buy it if you haven't bought it already. Listen. Again, I may have mentioned the podcast. We have these shows also become podcasts. If you're a podcast listener, thank you. We love you. We also have Peculiar in Film, or Peculiar at the Movies, which Davey will talk about in a minute. Peculiar in Mystery, which we have Deanna Rayborn coming up. We've got other people. My brain just went blank, of course. So you can watch all the shows on YouTube, including all the past episodes we've ever done, which is amazing. You can join the Facebook group, and because you love us, you can support us on Patreon. We do have VIP only materials, VIP shows. If you're a VIP, you can come in the green rooms. There's lots of other fun stuff you can do as a VIP. Please think about supporting us on Patreon. It's how we keep the lights on, and it's how we keep Davey happy as well, which we need Davey to be happy.
Speaking of subscribing to things.
Yes. Speaking of, if you did not get tonight's link from the newsletter, but from one of our other sources, I highly recommend joining the newsletter, because you will always have the link in your inbox. Plus, I think I'm quite entertaining. So at least I think so. So yes, read the newsletter. It's fun. I send you lots of cool things. VIPs, again, little as $5 a month. If you want, you get all the VIP shows. We have added something which is like the $1. It's just like the tip jar kind of. You're like, we think you're neat. You can just give us that too. That's great. And next up is
what you've been waiting for, the cocktail.
The cocktail. That's right. Okay. So book cocktail. Kat gets increasingly more creative. It's amazing. Can we blow up on the photo because it's kind of amazing?
I know it's kind of hard. I will say that you should. That's about as big as I can get right now.
Okay.
It's a long ingredient list this week, so it's very small font. So go check it out on the Facebook page.
Facebook page
has
it.
Group, yeah.
This beautiful green alien-looking wonderful thing, and then we come up with names. And in honor of the whole intelligent plants that scared me to death, this is the one that won: Flora Intelligentsia with rum. This is your cocktail.
All right. And speaking of the podcast feed, we, like Brandy said, we do the Peculiar Movie Club. I think Brandy's called it 10 different names at this point.
Sorry.
But we just keep it simple with Peculiar Movie Club. And we're doing in honor of Jaime. Your book inspired me. So we've done this before. We've done TV shows on the Peculiar Movie Club. So we're going a little bit off point here. But you talk so much about Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I do.
And I'm a Star Wars guy. I am a huge Star Wars guy. Seen some of the theatrical Star Trek movies, but never really like dug into the show. So I decided I'm going to give it a chance here. So I found 3 episodes with the debut of different unique alien races.
Nice.
Cool.
So we're going to be doing it's on the screen now for our podcast listeners. I guess I'll put it, make sure it's in the description of the episode so you'll know what episodes we're doing. But it's season 3, episode 2, The Ensigns of Command, season 4, episode 12, The Wounded, and season 5, episode 2, Darmok. And these were like some of the top rated episodes as well of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I found an infographic that literally rated every episode. Oh man, it was a lot. So
I just gave a little mention to your dog Kenobi, saying that Kenobi can tell you all about the Star Wars fandom. That
yeah, exactly. But no,
if I were recording from my husband's podcast studio in the basement, you would see his wild collection of Jar Jar Binks memorabilia.
Excellent. Excellent. You know, it was interesting. I have a comment about Star Wars a little bit later. I'm going to save for later on. But yeah, Star Trek. I've watched 2 of the 3 episodes so far. It's very interesting. I have a lot of thoughts going back on this show like 30 years later.
There's a lot of Darmok conversation happening over here.
Nice. All right.
Oh, so, yeah. It looks like Sureka's book has a bit on them too. So yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Darmok. Okay.
So I'm excited. Yeah, that's the one I have to get to still. So we will have a fun, detailed conversation about all 3 episodes and the themes that kind of bring them all together, including your books. So.
Oh yeah, what years were these released?
I'm so
jealous of Davey discovering TNG.
I have it up here still. So the season 3 would have been in 1989. So we're talking 89, 90, and 91.
Oh man, I always think of, I'm like, The Next Generation, the current one. No, Brandy.
Yeah.
Time keeps moving. Love it. All right. Whew. Got through all those. Thank you. Now we got some questions to throw at you here. So I'm going to start with the top and you guys continue to add them. We'll keep starring them and I'll get to them. So Kristen Meston asks, how did you decide to narrate your own audiobook? Most of the authors are sure they don't want to do that. You did a great job, by the way.
Thank you. I always knew I wanted to do it. I mean, the short answer is that I was a theater major in college. I was an actor. It's something I like doing. And it's something I felt like I'd be good at. I used to have a podcast myself. And I love nonfiction books that are narrated by the author. I just, you're saying I and it's you. So it should be you. It really adds something. It's not right for every author. But I knew from the start that I wanted to do it. And it actually was a bit of a fight. Like I got an email from my editor at some point that was like, here are 3 audiobook narrators for you to consider. And I was like, I would like to be able to audition, please. And actually just in consultation with my agent, wrote this email explaining why I thought I should be considered and went to the Jar Jar Binks podcast studio downstairs and recorded the first 2 minutes of the book and sent it in. It was just so I didn't even wait for them to give me permission to audition. I just was like, here you go. And it worked. And it was a really, actually like a really meaningful experience. I felt like the way that it connected me to the book, to be able to not exactly perform it, but embody it, felt very meaningful to me. And I was really proud of it. And so thank you for listening to it too.
So funny story. I actually do audiobooks, like, not my own. Well, it is my own, I guess. I have, I do audiobooks for Audible. I have one called These Six Things Will Kill You. And my publisher still absolutely refused to let me do it. They're like, no.
Yeah, it's
so I didn't
weird.
even have they were just like flat out nope.
What did you I've been on the recording and the editing end of audiobooks. So what did you think of that process? Like how tough were your editors, your producers as you were recording?
I loved I don't know if you'd be like the producer or director, but the guy who was in my ear saying, okay, can you take that back? Can you do that slower? Whatever. He was wonderful. He turns out we have friends in common.
Oh, nice.
And I was, as a recovering, goody two shoes student, was very proud that on the day that I had pickups, I just had like one sheet of things that I had to do.
Nice.
We did it all in 3 days, and then the corrections were like, an hour in and out.
That's funny.
So it felt, I was also like,
Kristen just had to say, she's like, I really appreciate you reading your own book because you pronounce all the science words correctly. Some of our recent ones have had some hilariously bad pronunciations, to which Jennifer Pierce agrees. It is hard, I will admit. I have people who help me pronounce things right. I mean, it will never be as funny as Penguin. You guys remember Benedict Cumberbatch saying Penguin instead of penguin for the entire series that he was doing. And then only at the end realized it, and it's really, really quite funny. But it's hard work though. It is, and it's exhausting, and it makes you hoarse, and it's a lot. So I don't. I have to say that I cannot do my current book, and I did not want to do my current book because there's so much of it in German. I was like, no.
Oh yeah,
someone who knows German has to do this one.
I noticed that when I listen, because I listen to a lot of nonfiction audiobooks, and it's very clear when the author can or does or does not know how to pronounce things in the language. Not the author, even the narrator. Like I was listening to a book with a professional narrator, and I was like, "You're so good, and you do not speak French."
Yeah, French I can do. French I'd be all over French, but German, no. And so I didn't even try. I didn't even ask about it. This publisher that I'm with now is Norton. They might have let me do it, but I was like, no,
not this
not
one.
With all the German, not with this one.
They're now challenging you for
I know
different sciencey words in the chat.
So this is in my book. And I'm really hoping I didn't mess it up because I say Anthropocene. And I know that a British person would say Anthropocene.
Oh, really?
I say there are some wild British pronunciations. But
I can't even pronounce Brandy's last name.
My favorite thing with pronunciations was I asked on Twitter, back when Twitter was still a functional place, about Greek pronunciations. And someone connected me with a Greek scholar who sent me a voice memo of all these words that I absolutely would not have been pronouncing right. And at one point, my producer or director was like, I think it's this. And I was like, I'm going, I've held up my phone. I was like, and I would sit and listen and then record the bit. So I cared about that a lot, the pronunciation. I had to get name pronunciations, trying to, the Polish author of Solaris, Stanisław Lem. Okay. It feels really wrong, but that's what it apparently is.
Well, but it's like us discovering that it's octopuses. Remember, guys? Remember we found out it was octopuses and not octopi? That was like a whole thing.
Or it could be octopodes.
Octopodes.
Because it's Greek. That's why it's not octopi.
Yeah.
Although maybe that would be pronounced octopodes. I don't know.
That sounds. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna name a cat that. Get one of those ones that has extra toes. Name it Octopodes. No, the worst thing about all that was my last. I have a show. It hasn't out yet. It will come out in May, called Unsolved Mysteries of Medicine, and there are so many drug names and chemical names and chemistry things that I had to pronounce in the show, and we're all the entire studio is going, are you sure? I don't know. I think we don't even know. We got close. I was like, say it fast. No one will notice. Yeah. Jennifer's laughing at my gasp. But I was very excited. Sorry. Okay. So other question. That was a great question. We do have to come back to the naked mole rats. We really do. So
I don't know. Everything I know about naked mole rats is in the book. That was one of those research things where I came across it in another source, and it's just an anecdote. I don't know anything about the sex life of naked mole rats. I'm sorry.
But I do. So
okay, great. I'm
really excited about this question. Yeah. So naked mole rats are real weird for a whole bunch of things. Number one, they don't get cancer. Number two, they do not have the ability to feel stress. They don't make stress genes. And they think it's because their lives are spent in dirty, awful holes that with lots of gases, and it's gross. And so they just couldn't survive if they stressed out about it. So they're just very chill. It's just super relaxed. But there's the queen rat, right? And so she has all the babies, just like a bee. She has all the babies, and none of the babies mate. So they don't have babies of their own. So they could roll
because they're all siblings, so it would be a problem.
They're siblings, right? But even if they were, they just don't do it. They're just this big no. Because she sends out these pheromones that tells them they're not allowed to, I guess. So anyway, she's much bigger than the other ones, just like a queen insect would be, and she has all the babies. And she mates with there is a male. There's one guy in there being like, oh. So she mates with him, and then until she dies and her pheromones stop lingering, no one else gets to make babies. No one else gets to get jiggy with it. So their sex lives, there is no sex life unless you queen, and then you have good sex life, but a lot of babies, which is maybe not a great trade, I guess. So
I think this is the theme of Beyonce's next album. The queen.
Queen mole rat.
Is it called Queen Mole Rat? I was hoping. You're welcome. You're welcome. I
had Googled it while you were talking, and that's you're the queen.
I'm a big fan.
They called cooperative breeding.
Yeah. I only know about it because one of the things that I researched for my show was cancer prevention, and one of the things they're studying naked mole rats to figure out why they don't get cancer, and I'm pretty sure it's because they don't get stressed.
I mean, makes sense.
So, yeah. Anyway, side note, Kathleen says, kiwi and rum, delicious, dangerous, num, num, num. All right, next question. Oh, Kristen, it's not exactly a question, but she said, I have to say I was a bit bummed that the language communication section didn't have Darmok. I was all ready for it. I guess Mielville is okay too.
So I don't remember Darmok. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of Next Generation. I first watched it when it was airing live. So I was a little kid watching it with my dad, and have gone back and watched it. And some episodes always stuck with me, like the de-evolution one, the one where they all get hypnotized playing that little mind control game, because that's what social media feels like to me. But I'm just going to honestly Google
Darmok
right
the
now.
thing about Darmok, it's Picard.
Oh, it's that guy.
Yeah. He speaks in allegories.
Right.
So Picard has to figure out how to communicate with him.
Is that Wallace Shawn? Looks like Wallace Shawn.
I would be very good at communicating in allegories.
Yeah. So that's interesting because in the...
I like how through the alien makeup, you're like, is that Wallace Shawn?
Well, the same thing happened watching Deep Space Nine. There's a Ferengi who comes on. I'm like, is that Wallace Shawn? And it is. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Inconceivable.
But sorry,
Lorelei Peterson says that sounds like the worst guy at a party.
But what was I? Oh, right. So the China Mieville book there's this really fascinating thing that I think I barely get into in the book, where the aliens only can speak literally. They only can speak truth, where truth is there's this weird, almost magical thing where for them speech is truth. And so they can't lie, and they also can't use metaphors except when they orchestrate the performance of the metaphor. So the main character in the book, when she was a girl, was asked to perform this metaphor. So they're able to say something like, this is like the girl who ate what she was given. because they enacted this scene where when she was a girl, ate what she was given on the rock that was split around. It's very long and they've abbreviated it, but it holds this meaning for them. So it's almost like a flip of Darmok, where they struggle with figurative language unless there is a literal truth to it.
I'm autistic. I'm curious. Who wrote that?
That's China Mieville. Yeah. So if you're feeling some, I don't know. But
I'm a little bit literal. I've learned not to be, but I'm just saying. Some struggles.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to the Darmok episode. That's the one I have left. So now I have a lot to look forward to.
All right, now I have I've lost my place here. Let's see.
We are at the halfway point. If you want,
we are at the halfway point. Okay.
Toss the music and queue up some questions.
We have music for this evening, which is Charming Disaster, who is our wonderful. They're getting ready to release a new album as well, which is great. Queue up new questions, additional questions. I have questions about sentient plants. We will listen to some music. I will mark your questions, and we will get back to it after this.
Oh, hello, Peculiars.
It's us, Charming Disaster.
We don't have any songs about extraterrestrial life.
But we do have songs about terrestrial life.
Which is really just as mysterious.
Truly.
This is Bat Song from our album
Supernatural History.
Strangest dreams when I'm fast asleep, hanging upside down from the ceiling, claws and fur, needle teeth, little black umbrella with a heart that beats. My love is blind. Tell me, are you one of my kind? Just what kind of creature is a thing like me? My love is blind. Tell me, are you one of my kind? My love is blind. Tell me, are you one of my kind?
I love them, don't you?
That was
Song-
great.
Lovely.
Song
They
had
are
some
so
vibes
lovely.
to it, yeah.
Yeah.
A chiller
So,
song from them.
It was. Normally they're a little bit more spicy, but I like that one a lot. They are, of course, they appear in our stop motion animation as well. And whoops, sorry, hang on, I meant to mark. Okay, sometimes weird things happen. All right, there we go. It was lovely, and everyone is saying so in the chat as well. What I like about Charming Disaster is that often their songs are quite educational as well. Including our theme song, which it tells you that you should look for the ridges on the glass so that you don't poison yourself, which is handy, I think. So we have a couple people saying just that it was a beautiful song. New people. I'm seeing new people in the feed, by the way. Welcome to all of you who are newly here. Come back. We've got more. So another question has popped up here, and this is also from Kristen. And she said, one thing that doesn't seem to get mentioned is the time difference between possible extant alien species. And we may be far away distance-wise, but also happen tens of thousands years apart, too. Right? And I think that that's the whole long ago and far, far away kind of question, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that definitely comes up in Star Wars, like how long ago. And there is a lot of interesting stuff about that. But yeah, it's true. Like part of the Drake equation is about not just, how many is there other life, but is there other life that would be transmitting now when we can receive it? Part of that is about closeness. Like if there is another civilization right now 10,000 light years away, that doesn't do us any good. It would be better if there was a civilization 10,000 years ago, 10,000 light years away, then we might catch a signal from them. But yeah, I mean, in some ways there are constraints on it because the very first stars, and this is where I'm a little out of my depth just talking off the dome instead of actually having the research in front of me. But the very first stars, it took a few generations of stars to make all of the elements that life uses. Like when the universe was first big banged, it was helium and hydrogen, and like that was it. And then the first stars burned those for fuel, and when those stars died, it created bigger elements, and it took a couple of generations of stars. So it's not that there could have been life around other stars from the beginning. It took time, a while, but there definitely could be civilizations older than us, and they could have lived and died and poofed out, or they could have lived and transcended who knows what. So yeah.
So we have an interesting comment in the questions here. Someone was saying, what is I think, if I'm reading them right, sort of what's the point of looking for aliens when we should be focusing on humanity right here and now? But that's actually what your book is about too. One of the things that I talked about in the review and that I got really excited about was how much your book was about the more we look out and the more things we look for, the more we're really reflecting on ourselves and talking. And a lot of it is about, what does it mean that you're looking for life out there? And what does it say about you as a person and as a species? And so, that becomes more of it's a theme throughout the book, but you really kind of hammer it home in the last couple of chapters. You want to say something about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I also think that, there are different ways of asking the question of what is the value of thinking about aliens or reading or enjoying art when the world is burning. And that's I'm not going to get into a ton of that, but I think that, you know, in order for life to have value, it should have art and beauty, and that's part of what we're fighting to preserve.
To preserve, right?
And also, we're still human beings who, you know, it's like, well, why are you eating when you could be out overthrowing the government? It's like, oh, you know, I'm going to enjoy my dessert.
But you make a really good point in the book about about why we need what it says about us. Like, I really felt it ended up getting picked up on a Saturday edition of Wall Street Journal because I was so touched by it. Did because I was so like, wow, what does this say about us as people? You know.
Right. And that's what a lot of the point is. And especially when I get past the fundamental science and into things like technology, like how do we imagine super advanced alien technology? That's not about what other civilizations might be doing. That's about these are ways of imagining forward possible futures for humanity.
For humanity.
So StarTrek is interesting because it imagines a post-scarcity, post-money, very socialist seeming post-war, post-conflict future for Earth. And so then we think about how did they get there? What does communicating with alien worlds have to do with achieving this new level of peace and prosperity on Earth? When we imagine futures with aliens that are very conflict heavy, so many alien stories are about aliens coming to Earth and conquering us. Those are ways of processing human history, making sense of
colonialization.
Right. Colonialism, colonization, war, you know, that's explicitly mentioned in War of the Worlds. And it's just been a through line ever since. And then when the writers are not white Westerners, you know, a lot of science fiction coming out of Africa and South America or Latin America is grappling with having been colonized and knowing what colonialism feels like. And then how do you imagine sort of that next step of it for the world?
Yeah.
You know, all of these stories, there are interesting scientific puzzle, scientific thought experiments, but I think they're much more powerful as social thought experiments, as political thought experiments. What are the different ways the future might go, and what are the paths that we're on, and where are those paths leading?
Well, and to me, that's what your book really, you said earlier, you know, and I think someone else mirrored you here, was the question that plagues every author, every writer: what makes my version of this better or worthwhile? That was Anthro Girl, I think. Yeah. Is really that is how do we, what do I have to offer? And so when I picked up your book, I've read lots of other books, lots of other science books, Carl Zimmer talking about brain organoids, etc. People talking about, can we find bacteria on other worlds? Is there microorganisms on asteroids? When I picked up your book, I thought it was going to be more like that. And I was quite surprised and almost overwhelmed by your incredible knowledge of pop culture science fiction. But the reason that was included was because those stories are reflective. It's the same as fantasy novels, right? If you're reading, people got really into Game of Thrones, and I was kind of like, you'll love the War of the Roses, you know, like like this is just history recaptured for a modern audience to kind of help us see what that's like, and to also help us care, I think, about if you can learn to care about an alien species, maybe you can learn to care about, like, I don't know, your neighbor.
And that's a big thread in SETI also, this idea that finding life on other worlds would change our relationship to humanity, whether that's about realizing we're not so different from each other, which I think is a sort of simplistic way of doing it. Like, we already know that we don't need aliens to come fix our brains, you know, and
but kind of, right? It's sort of like, you know, I remember seeing it's like people go, oh, well, I study history, right? And there's a whole period of history where they were like asking if certain people groups were really human, right?
Right.
Of course they are. We know they are. But then if you're facing someone who looks, who have tentacles, it's kind of like, okay, we all have a lot in common, actually.
Right. It sort of is like the idea of, you know, what's it going to take to make us realize that we need to halt climate change? And it's like, we already know this, you know. It's more about changing the priorities and the values. But yeah, I mean, I think that whether it's about a new way of learning about the science of life on Earth, or a new way of understanding human society and technology and history and the way we think about the future, this is all just sort of a lens and a way to do that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Sareka was saying an origin for her book, which is Humans: A Monstrous History. She says it was an astrobiology conference she attended at the Library of Congress in 2014. The scientists were obsessed for germs and weapons, not becoming better humans.
Yeah.
And she adds, but preparing for discovery includes learning how to deal with difference, learning how to deal with other human beings. And so I think that this is one of the real strengths and powers, I believe, of your book. And this is why you needed to write this book, not an astrophysicist, not, and this is what makes, I think, your book unique and interesting and peculiar, which is why you're here.
Love it.
With all of us. So I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Please put a couple more questions in the feed, guys. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm going to get back to what you're going to say in a second. Because we're going to go from this to Davy's quiz and then back for any final questions. So just rounding up. Sorry, what were you going to say?
What was I going to say?
My bad.
Just that. No, it's okay. It's okay. I was also thinking about Sareka. I'm pretty sure I watched a video from that conference for research for this book. But I was going to say that on the question of, books written by scientists from the field versus outsiders, I think it also just makes a different kind of book, that scientists are explaining their work and very often making an argument for the way that they see things. Brian Greene is writing a lot of history and explaining why he thinks string theory or whatever is interesting and compelling. There was a really interesting book that came out last year called Life as No One Knows It by Sarah Amari Walker, who's one of the origin of life scientists who I talked to in the book. And the first half of it is explaining a lot about life and the origin of life. But the whole second half is her making an argument for her theory. And I think of my writing as less argument driven and more question driven, which I think can be a big difference between someone from within the field, someone from outside of it. It's also a big difference between people who write as science journalists, who are writing to report on what's happening. Here's the information, here's the science, here's the connection, versus me, where I'm coming at this as an essayist. I have an MFA in creative nonfiction. I didn't go to J school. I am thinking about what are the connections, what are the questions, what are the possible answers to the questions, rather than what is the ultimate truth.
Right. No, I like that. Well, Davy, I'm going to bring you on to give the quiz, and we got a couple more questions queued up for after the quiz, but I'm waiting. I'm very excited about this. You don't understand. Davy's quiz is like a whole thing on this show.
I'm enjoying the questions. I feel this time are so specific to things in the book. Like I don't remember as many specific things as all of you remember. Like you're so good at that. All right. By the way, the actor who played.
Oh yeah, it's not Wallace Shawn.
His name is Paul Winfield.
It really looks like Wallace Shawn.
Yeah, you can spot him. He's done a few other Star Trek things. He played Martin Luther King Jr. in the television miniseries King. He was one of the cops in the Terminator. So look for him when they're interrogating. He's one of the cops there.
Leanne's we read the book. That's why.
I appreciate it.
This is an unusual kind of book show, because most of the time author shows.
I know.
Yeah. No, you do read. Hey, believe me, I listen to the audiobooks too. I churn through those audiobooks, but some of the details you guys remember. You're so good. Fair. All right, so the quiz, yes. I had to go to pop culture. I had to go with you talked about so many different aliens, and I needed to pare it down. I found a list of top 25 sci-fi, aliens of all time, and I just needed a way to pare it down. So these are aliens that all specifically live with human families.
Oh,
great.
So, and some of them, one you mentioned in your book, some of them you did not mention in your book. So this will be fun. So here is the quiz.
I knew it was going to be out.
The quiz is called My Favorite Martian, but I'm not asking you any questions about My Favorite Martian, just in honor of My Favorite Martian. So yes, the first question is about Alf. So there were so many things I could have asked you about. Oh my God, there's so many details to Alf's life and just the puppetry and
not
things.
One that I know.
So Alf may seem like he lives a sedentary life, but back on planet Melmac, he was actually an active member of the Melmacian military known as blank. Is it A, the Space Knights, B, the Orbit Guards, or C, Council Armada?
And you can get help from the Peculiars.
The Peculiars
Peculiars tend to be very.
Yes,
it's like phone a friend.
I was gonna quit. Like, there's so many questions I could ask you about Alf. Like, how many stomachs he has, and
Okay, Lorelai says
C. So
C.
Lorelai says C, and I was thinking like C. Oh, but see, now Jennifer said B, so now I don't trust anyone because C is definitely the most elegant, and Alf is not an elegant guy, but maybe the whole point is that when he was on Melmac, he was. So I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with C.
Gonna go with C. Okay.
All right.
Going with
The
Lorelai.
answer
All right.
is the Orbit Guard.
Oh, sorry,
The Orbit
Jennifer.
Guard, yeah.
Jennifer got it.
Space Knights and Council Armada were both pulled from the Marvel wiki. They're other space militaries in the Marvel comic universe.
All right.
Got
I
it.
needed something to fill in the blanks there.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alpha's part of the Orbit Guards. So many questions. I love. Like, I want to ask you about the puppetry. Like, it takes 3 people to do the Alf puppet.
I believe it. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry, Jamie. Leanne's like,
okay.
Lorelai's like, oops, sorry.
That's okay.
All right. I've done a sketch before on this with Alf. They know.
Jennifer's like, why did I even know that?
He's been back here the whole time. Look at that. He's been here the whole time.
Melmacians.
All right. Question number 2 is Roger from American Dad. Roger holds this title thanks to a March Madness style competition held by Logo TV. Is it A, the most sociopathic cartoon character of all time, B, the most stylish cartoon character of all time, or C, the gayest cartoon character of all time?
Well, C felt kind of problematic to me, but Logo was or is. I don't know if Logo is still around, but that was like a gay channel. So I've also never seen American Dad, but I don't think that American Dad was too worried about being problematic. So I'm going to say C.
No. I don't know.
I'm going to let the peculiars fill in. Yeah, Roger is, if you've never seen American Dad, Roger is really one of the greatest aliens that TV has ever gifted us. He is
he gay?
Insane. Pansexual.
Okay.
He seems very sociopathic to me too, though.
At first, the premise was going to be like Alf, where he had to stay confined to their house. But then he started putting on disguises and going out into the world. And his disguises have become a whole thing unto themselves. Like, what is Roger going to be this episode? He can
I mean, like, I
be
believe
anything.
that he's sociopathic, but I don't think Logo cared about that. I think Logo
that's possibly true.
So, and he's naked.
But he has
so
a lot of. He's
stylish.
naked, but he does put on a lot of costumes. So maybe he's stylish too.
Final answer, C.
The answer is, and yes, you were on the right path. The answer is C. I didn't say it. Logo TV said it. Okay, they dubbed him.
I remember Logo
character of all time.
I don't know. Logo doesn't exist anymore, does it?
I don't know.
Think so.
TV doesn't exist anymore.
I would be proud to be the gayest alien of all time.
Yeah, funny. Some of the things that popped up on this list, though, it was actually a big list of cartoon characters. All right, so yeah, definitely check out some American Dad episodes.
Roger's hilarious. The best part. Yeah, I don't get the humor. So I've discovered that there's certain kinds of humor. And I'm going to say this is autism and not my fault, but maybe it's just me. But there's just certain kinds of humor that just miss me entirely. And like American Dad, what's the other one? The one with the talking dog? Family Guy. Like, just, like I just am watching like, is it in another language? Like, I don't get it at all.
He also has a comedy out right now called The Orville, which is kind of a spoof on Star Trek.
Okay.
It's like a Star Trek.
But it's not a cartoon, right? It's
it's a live action show. Yeah.
Kathleen said he had the best closet of any cartoon, though.
Question number 3, and I saved.
And he was probably out of it, and that's why he's the gayest. I've seen the connection. Sorry, carry on.
Probably saved the best for last. Someone you did mention in the book. E.T. So, what type of plant does E.T. revive in the Taylor house and is gifted to him at the end of the movie by Gertie? Is it A, chrysanthemum? B, daisies, or C, marigolds?
So Gertie is Drew Barrymore's character, right?
Gertie's Drew Barrymore's
character. So when I was in 6th or 7th grade, I wrote a book report on her autobiography, which was all about her messed up childhood because she was like maybe 18 at that point. And so I so vividly remember those pictures of Drew Barrymore with little daisies in her hair. She used to do that a lot. But now I'm worried that is leading me astray.
Bonnie says, while you think about it, Bonnie says Orville starts as a spoof but winds up being really good Star Trek as time goes on. That's kind of like Galaxy Quest, right? The greatest Star Trek movie of all time.
It is so good. Okay.
So I'm getting a lot of...
Sorry.
No.
Leanne says A. No one else has actually mentioned this, but
it was hard.
My problem is... chrysanthemums and marigolds look kind of the same.
I know. How could you tell
There were
the
so
difference?
many
Maybe it is a
easy,
daisy.
like there were so many easy ET questions, like what kind of candy does he lure him into the house with, and like there's so many iconic things known about him that I needed something a little bit challenging.
Oh, yeah, because like I grow both marigolds and chrysanthemums, and I am literally sitting here going, "Oh no, I don't know if I can."
Marigolds just look like little orange chrysanthemums.
They do. I know. Like, I'm not sure.
You know, I do my research on these things because I went to
I believe you.
the you know what plant species the answer was, and then all three of these are from the same plant species. So yes, they're all
my gosh.
similar.
So mean. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm feeling like maybe we got 3 A's in here.
I'm going with B.
Susan says she needs a picture, Davey.
You know, I got you taken care of. So she's going B. We do have a lot of A's from the chat.
Thank
the
you,
answer is
Nicole says
yes,
C.
it is chrysanthemums.
It
And
is
there it is. There's the
chrysanthemums.
photo of Gertie giving him ET the kiss on the forehead, holding his potted.
They
Yeah,
are
he saved the
chrysanthemums.
plant, so
Okay.
she gave it back to him. And
Yeah, that's sweet.
I'll tell you, I have not seen this movie since I was a child, and just watching some clips on YouTube, it's gonna. If I ever watch this again, I will be all tears. I will be. Yeah, this is gonna get me.
I was really scared of it when I was a kid.
I'm a little creeped out still by ET's general naked shape.
The way he moves, it's pretty unique. Well, so this is something you talked about in the book, and what I love about all these aliens is like you talked about how like having eyes makes sense to see light, and like having a mouth and nose, like these things make sense. And all three of our aliens, even as weird as they look, have eyes, nose, mouth.
Mouth, head on a neck, body. Yeah, they're very similar.
Well, I saw something really horrific lately, which is apparently the last surviving animatronic ET is like rotting in some garage somewhere, and they showed it, and it's all like, and I was like,
oh no,
that's quite traumatic. I think Leanne won tonight. She actually got all the answers correct.
ET was not the most traumatic thing that came out of that time period. It was Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh yeah, that's true.
When the eyes pop out of her head.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that one got me.
The one I was really traumatized by was the movie My Stepmother is an Alien, which I saw at some point when I was maybe like 6 or 7 years old. And the stepmother, she's some like beautiful blonde woman. I don't remember who it is, but she has with her like a alien who's sort of keeping tabs on her. And it's this little like stalk with an eyeball on the end that lives in her purse. And I was so scared to go to sleep the night after I saw that movie. I remember this was when my mom taught me the lesson of like, if there's something spooking you, imagine it. Don't be scared that you're going to dream about it. And if you think about it before you go to bed, you won't dream about it. So because it's, oh no, it does. My dreams are always coming out of like the back, out of left field or something. But I think because of that, I like so vividly remember just being absolutely terrified.
That is, yeah. I'm a little bit spooked by that now. Kristen Meston has just reminded me that there were ETs in Star Wars.
That's
Remember
true.
that in the big
I do like that.
Yeah. So the Star Wars characters, I thought this was interesting because Chewbacca was on the list of top 25 aliens of all time.
Yeah.
But I was like, every character in Star Wars is an alien.
They're all aliens.
They're all aliens.
Is an alien. Like
they're
he's standing
on a
right next to him
far,
in the
far
photo.
away. Yeah.
Yep, it's kind of hard to know.
true.
Okay, I got a couple last questions. We're gonna pop in here. One was about epigenetic changes caused by stress, trauma. That's a real thing. And Leanne's asking, how is this proven?
Oh, it's not about aliens. I don't know.
Okay,
I just don't know.
but it is true.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it's changing not what your genes are, but which instructions are being read. Basically,
Yes, because because a lot of it is proteins, which proteins are like attaching to things and turning things on and turning things off, and it's very, very small decisions made by things that we can't control. I know that's true, but I do find that fascinating, and
yeah, totally.
like to the point that like it can change. Also, like you experience trauma as a mother, weird things can happen to the child as well, like while you're pregnant, and it's passed along with these little switches that turn on and off. Crazy. Last question, Kristen Meston. How cool was it to get to talk to Andrea?
It was really cool. It was really, really cool. She was wonderful, and we had a really great conversation. And yeah, that felt very important because, Carl Sagan and she are both huge influences on me, on my book. I think I mentioned this in the book. I have a tattoo from the golden record on my leg. And she told
briefly, I just realized some people might not know what the golden record is.
Okay. Sorry, everyone had read the book already. So it's on the Voyager probes that were launched in, I don't know, 1970, 1971. Carl Sagan, and this is where Sagan and Andrean met. There's a really great Radiolab segment about them, which shows up on 2 different episodes, an episode about love and an episode about space. But he was tasked by NASA, or, decided that he wanted to create something to put on the probes because they knew that after they completed their mission in the solar system, they were just going to keep going out beyond space. And he had done a smaller version of this on the Pioneer probes, which were a similar situation where they were going to just remain in space. Whereas other probes were like crashed into Saturn or Jupiter to sort of end their missions. And so the Pioneer probes have plaques on them with like a little drawing that's meant to, it's a little, sort of Vitruvian man illustrating where people, the people and where it came from in the solar system. And so for the Voyager probes, they upped the ante and created this record, like a record player record that can play sounds and records images. And on the cover of the record are instructions for playing it, an explanation in a diagram of where the probes came from. And then if you can figure out how to play the record, it has images from Earth, diagrams, pictures of technology, greetings in like 100 languages, whale song, children's laughter. Andrean, and she talks about this on the Radiolab episode, recorded a recording of her brainwaves that she told me is actually the part on the record that she's most hopeful could be reconstructed by an intelligent alien finding it. That with those brainwaves, they might be able to deduce what her thoughts were. And what she was meditating on for that recording period was the struggle on Earth to be good, to end war, to stop harming each other, and this new love that she was feeling with Carl Sagan. Like they fell in love while they were working on it. There are also recordings of music from around the world and things like that. So I knew her from that. She also told me about how extensive their co-authorship was of Contact, that it was really, she had written novels before, he hadn't, and how she was denied credit for that. And
I was thinking of doing the movie Contact, but you basically reviewed it in the book.
Yeah.
Like you kind of nailed it. So
well, God forbid I should get a correct answer on the quiz, right?
No, for the movie podcast. Like I was gonna.
For the movie podcast. I thought you meant for
yeah.
the quiz. Like, yes, I could have done that. Could have done that one. But yeah, it was really, really special to get to talk to her.
Well, this has been. I mean, I love the deep dives. I'm sorry. What I love about the Peculiar Book Club is we are not just about surface in this particular club. We really want to know stuff about the book. We really want to know about the author. It has been fabulous having you on. I just want to prove that. What is this? Susan says Brandy is laughing more and smiling a lot with her blonde wig. Have y'all noticed? Blondes have more fun. It's not my fault.
It works.
I just want to show you guys that we have not been alone, and in fact, the cats have been with us the whole time.
Yay.
One of them is sleeping on the chair. That's Wallace. And Darwin is sleeping on top of my heater because he loves that heater.
Babies.
It's his favorite thing. So they've been with us the whole time. They just
good.
Yeah, they were loving us. All right, now I'm gonna drop my computer.
I will say one more sketch idea I had was an alien disc jockey reviewing the golden record.
That would have been
awesome. I love it.
Oh my god, yeah, that's so cool. Kristen says, such a great conversation. I feel like Jamie and I are already friends after the audiobook.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yes. So thank you guys so much for being here, for being with all of us at a place where, if you're weird, you're family.
You got the blue bottle blues. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote.